All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 135-pound division, where Gervonta Tank Davis and his camp ask a question of Devin Haney about the Vasily Lomachenko fight, and one that could probably be asked to Gervonta Davis as well. However, let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 135-pound division where, man, we got big fights coming up, both in April and in May. Yeah, all of the top lightweights, with the exception of Frank Martin, will be in action over the next 2 months. Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia first, or actually, let me say that again. First, it's going to be Shakur Stevenson coming up this weekend. After that, it's going to be Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. After that, it is going to be Devin the Dream Haney and Vasily Lomachenko, taking place in May for the undisputed championship of the world. Should be really, really good fights and very, very fun in that weight class over the next 8 weeks or so. Actually, at this point, over the next 7 weeks, 6 weeks. So, but let's talk about it because Gervonta Tank Davis and his team on the Rise podcast, shout out to the Rise podcast. If you ever want really great content on Gervonta Tank Davis and to kind of know where he and his camp and all of that are, understand that that is most definitely the place to go. RIZE, the Rise podcast on YouTube. And on that podcast, some really, there is Coach Calvin Ford, there's Coach Kenny, there is Squeeze, and there is Coach Squeeze, and there is Coach Senior. All of them in the Gervonta Tank Davis camp, and we're always have really good conversations over there. And in this particular conversation, and over the last week or so, they've been asking a question of Devin Haney whenever this conversation comes up about Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko. Now, before I get into it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. Really does mean a lot. But let's get into it. Also, thank you to everybody that supports and the super thanks. But let's get into this. They asked a question, man. Devin Haney is really pushing, or at least his fans are pushing, for a fight between Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis after these fights that I just mentioned take place. But there's a question that is asked, which is, what's Devin gonna do when Devin Haney loses to Vasily Lomachenko? Now, the phrasing of the question on their podcast was not if, it was when. What are you going to do when you lose to Vasily Lomachenko? And that is a question that, I mean, is a very interesting question. And I've said this, now I'm not going to say when because I'm favoring Devin Haney to win the fight. The question is, though, whether or not people, for me, are just assuming that that is going to take place. Now, with the Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, I'm telling you, it's not quite the same situation for me because I don't think Ryan Garcia is proven a fighter and is difficult to fight as Vasily Lomachenko is, because Vasily Lomachenko is a really good fighter. And just like how Devin Haney says, give me my flowers when I beat him, absolutely, I will most definitely give him a lot of respect for beating Vasily Lomachenko. And the main reason is because I don't think that that is a gimme fight. There's a lot of people that think that's a gimme fight. I'm not one. Where Ryan Garcia does not have a lot of experience on the big stage and in those circumstances. And he really has not had a lot of fights that, would really prepare him for something like Gervonta Davis, seeing as Gervonta Davis is the one with the most experience, is really very the most well-rounded of the fighters, all of that. Over here with the Devin Haney fight in Lomachenko, you got something different where Vasily Lomachenko, I think his record is 17-2. He's got 2 losses, but they're 2 close losses, not blowout losses, close losses. But the most significant thing for Vasily Lomachenko is that of the 19 fights that he's had, I do believe that 18 of those fights have been world championship fights. So he only has 19 total fights, but he has 17 world championship fights in which he is 18 world championship fights in which he is 17-1. Or no, excuse me, where he is 16-2, right? Because both of the championship fights that he lost were championship fights. The one was against Orlando Salido, the other one against Teofimo Lopez. So, man, just absolutely, a ton of experience in that regard. Also, there's a lot of conversation about Devin Haney and how much weight Devin Haney gains in between fights. And coming in the ring at 24 pounds heavier than his weight limit, than the weight limit the day after, coming in at what do they say, gains 24 pounds, which would mean he's coming in at around 159 pounds. Well, that is really, to do that, you have to really deplete yourself in training. And over time, that's going to get harder and harder to make. And the last time you saw him fight, he really did not look good on that scale. Looked completely anorexic on that scale. So the combination of two of those things and the fact that Vasily Lomachenko is an excellent fighter, man, should tell you that this fight is not some foregone conclusion between the two of them. But to answer the question, if what's going to happen if he loses, more than likely he's going to have a rematch against Vasily Lomachenko. However, if he loses and he has a rematch against Vasily Lomachenko, that brings into the question of dealing with Bob Arum and what's going to happen in order to have that rematch take place. Now, we could say, yeah, there's a rematch clause in place, right? Yes, but who's the rematch clause in place with? The rematch the rematch clause is in place with Bob Arum. And Bob Arum is somebody that can be a real tricky dude, man. So it's just going to be real interesting to see how that fight turns out. And certain members of Gervonta Tank Davis' team is saying, no, man, that dude is going to lose. I also had Coach Calvin on the channel, and when he talked about with the Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko, he said, look, man, I would pick Devin Haney to win, man. But the problem with that fight is, the politics of that fight are real funny. Now, that's another issue that you got to look at, because number one, Devin Haney's on the last fight of his deal with Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko is not somebody that Devin Haney is going to knock out. More than likely, he's not going to knock him down. And more than likely, Vasily Lomachenko is going to be winning rounds. Now, I could be wrong, and there's a lot of people predicting a 12-round shutout for Devin Haney. Vasily Lomachenko is not George Kambosos. And I don't think anybody should get the two. Those two fighters confused. But whatever the case is, sorry about that. Had to take another dog break. Whatever the case is, man, look, the politics on that particular fight could go sideways quickly, especially if Vasily Lomachenko is winning rounds, which I expect him to be able to do. And please understand that just because a fighter has losses, right, and have not looked good does not mean they cannot pull off a win that you don't see coming. Now, this may not be a direct parallel, but if you recall, Manny Pacquiao have been knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. He had lost to Jeff Horn, and he still came back and won that WBA regular championship, or super. I think he might have even won the super championship. Yeah, he did get the super championship off of Keith Thurman. And now Keith Thurman was definitely, had a layoff and had hurt his hands or whatever. But just be surprised, man, that these very, very experienced older fighters can come back out and have and just shock you and have a absolutely fantastic day, especially when people think, just blow them off. Because, don't get it twisted. When people are setting these expectations that Devin Haney's going to dominate every round of the fight, and it winds up not being that way, judges can start giving them rounds to Vasily Lomachenko, man, especially if Vasily Lomachenko is the one that's being more active and he's landing on a consistent basis. Could be a very, 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 could be a very tough fight for Devin Haney, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. My opinion is what happens if he loses, it's bad for his career. It's tough politically primarily. And also him having to moving up in weight into 140, man, that's a lot of animals at 140 pounds that are just as big, just as long, or bigger and longer than Devin Haney is. So man, it'll be interesting to see. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.